Hey, what's up, witches? Luna here with a kind of a random video. I was watching Martin's Musings, dropped a video that was a VR to a channel called Tarot Readings from a Bitch. So I've just been made aware of this channel. I'm going to be checking out some more of her stuff, but she has a hashtag, Tarot Reviewer Questions. And she put this out so that we can maybe have an easier time finding reviewers that are sort of wired the same way we are. Although I think you can get something from every reviewer. You know, you're going to be able to see a deck and decide whether you agree with that person or not. But for instance, I do long-ass unboxings and test drives. I take a long time looking at the deck, and I always do a test drive afterwards. Other ones do silent flip-throughs, and that's what somebody's looking for. So this gives me a chance to say, you know, what I'm all about, and and perhaps get on a few more people's radar. Okay. Question number one. There are 9 questions. Question number 1, what is your tarot experience? I have been reading since the late 80s, and I read professionally for quite a number of years. I am now retired from professional reading, but I've been doing it for a long time. I've been doing astrology even longer than that, but that is my experience. I have a lot of experience working personally with decks for my own growth, and then reading professionally as well. Why do I review decks? Because it's my happy place, because I'm a dragon and it's what I collect. I have always known I was a witch and a wacky little kid, and I think I got really intrigued with decks as soon as I found out about them, because I didn't really know growing up, and so I started my channel more than 10 years ago. Can't really remember how many years ago, 13, something like that, so that I could start reviewing some of the decks that I'd collected, and it also justifies the collection. Why do I review decks? Because it justifies me buying more. I think that's the bottom line. But I started off doing highly edited, really complex videos because I didn't have a 2-camera setup. And then I rebooted it in 2019, and I review decks because I absolutely adore the medium. It's just an incredible wealth of image and word and poetry and spirituality and everything. So I review decks because I adore decks and because it justifies me buying more. How did I get into reviewing decks? Okay, I kind of said some of that. I just thought, and I've always been a teacher. I've taught tarot classes. I've taught astrology classes. I've taught meditation and spirituality classes. I've taught about ritual. I've run a public ritual group. I've done lots and lots and lots and lots of things. I am a licensed priestess, and so wanting to teach, wanting to put out there what I know, wanting to share with people. I'm also a Leo, so I'm a performer, and that's another thing. I rebooted my channel in 2019 after my mother passed, and I kind of needed something to throw myself into, and I decided to reboot the channel. I hadn't put up a video in 6 or 7 years, and decided to just reboot the channel as a way to re-engage and do it in a much more simple format. And so that's what got me rebooting. Do I receive decks for review? No, I do not. There's one little asterisk, and I have a deal out on my channel that if you, there's an Amazon wish list below, and if you purchase me a deck from that wish list on my test drive reading, I will read for you specifically. If you send me a question, I will focus on that question. If not, it'll just be an open, what do I need to know type reading, but it will be specifically for the person that bought me that deck. So that's the only time that I receive decks for review. Sometimes it's decks that people love and they think I would love too. Sometimes it's decks that they aren't sure if they want to buy and they want to see me do a review and they want to see how a reading comes out of it. But as far as connected with publishers or asking indie people. No, I do not receive decks from anybody for reviews, so my reviews are unbiased. And my channel is unmonetized as well. What kind of reader are you? Ooh, all right. I'm an empath. I am a psycho-spiritual reader. So I've got Neptune in my 12th house and a Pisces moon. And so I key into your spiritual journey. I key into your psychological makeup and what issues might be there. I key into old trauma and the process of grief. I key into where you are in your spiritual journey as far as initiation goes, and growth and evolution and enlightenment and all that kind of stuff. So I read, and at the same time, I am a practical reader. I always want to send although I don't have clients now, but I always wanted to send away a client with insights or validation. Let's start with validation of where you are. You know where you are, open your eyes. Where's my path? Look down, you're on it, So validation, insight into the issues that are manifesting, into the energies behind those issues. And then I want to give you resources. What do I do about this? Here's what you need help with. Here are all the resources. I'm always writing down names of books and recordings and things so that people have resources that can help them move along, So validation, insight, and resources, because ultimately it has to be applicable on a practical, day-to-day, everyday life level, or it's no good. I've seen some readers, I've had readings from some readers that are all about the esoteric, that absolutely had nothing to do, that I could not even apply to my own life because they weren't bridging that gap between the spiritual and the practical. Okay. What kinds of decks do you gravitate toward? Mass market. I do mass market decks. I think I only own 1 or 2, maybe 3 indie decks, mostly because they're so fucking expensive. I can't. And as a collector, my collection really expanded in the 2000s, the early 2000s, when I worked for a company that sold those decks so I could get a discount, and I just started adding decks to the collection. What's the question again? What do I gravitate towards? Yes, I gravitate towards mass market decks. I love US Games decks. And I have recently begun adding to the historical decks in the collection. So I gravitate towards decks that speak to me. They've got to ring my bell. But I'm going to make that broad and just say I gravitate towards mass market. Maybe not naturally so, necessarily so because of budget, but I love them, so that's what I do. What do you like in a deck? I like emotions that I can see. When my first deck was a Rider-Waite-Smith that I stole from my late brother-in-law and had it in a junk drawer. Come on. And I was successful with that deck reading for myself. I started learning through that deck, but I always felt like I had to kind of tease it out, and then the week that I met my ex-husband was my birthday, and he bought me a Hanson Roberts deck. Now by this time I had the Rider-Waite, I had the Cartouche deck, I might have had a couple other Oracle decks, maybe not, but he bought me this Hanson Roberts deck, and my first reaction was, why do I need another tarot deck? I have a tarot deck. I could laugh long and hard about that now, but I did a reading with it, and it was kind of, not so much, but then I looked in the back of the book and I noticed that the way they laid out the Celtic cross was slightly different in the order of the cross part, and most especially in the way they described each category. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do that one. And when I did that one, it's like, whoa, the entire universe opened up. It was so fucking bang on. I couldn't believe it. Started taking it with me everywhere and reading for random strangers, and we were all blown away. So what I like in a deck, what the Hanson Roberts deck gave me, is people whose emotions I can see in their face. I love the Page of Swords, like this, that fear and on guard, and faces that look disappointed, faces that look joyful. I can read subtlety of emotion. So I like fully illustrated decks, and fully illustrated decks that have a tie to the traditional, but also bring in the new. So I like a deck that's accessible because it is grounded in the Waite Smith that I know, but that can take it into new territory. I really like it when an author brings me new insight into cards that I've been using forever. Same old card, and I read it and go, I've never thought of it that way before. That's what I really like. Great art, great authorship, both together. What do I dislike in a deck? I dislike pip cards. I dislike standard Stuart Kaplan keywords for an image that's very different from the original. There are many decks like that where, I'm going to draw these beautiful pictures, but I'm not going to spend the time actually authoring the deck and writing. I'm going to just slap the standard Stuart Kaplan meanings, which are great meanings for, the Smithway decks. So I don't like that. I don't like decks where, as I stated, you have to have a degree to read the deck or to understand it. There's this deck called the Conspiracy deck or something about healing, and oh my God, the person's a PhD, and it was kind of like their doctoral thesis. And I'm reading, and it's so dense that I just can't even get to using the deck. So I'm not really fond of decks that I have to read, a whole bunch and learn an entire system before I can read with the deck. I have decks that are like that, but I can still use the deck without doing all of that foundational work. What else don't I like? I don't like thick cardstock. So here we go into the packaging in cardstock. I don't like decks that are overpackaged. I don't like cardstock that is made like people are going to hang them on the wall and preserve them for eternity. I don't like it when publishers forget how people use their deck and produce these decks that are absolutely unshuffleable. Can't stand it. What else don't I like? Those are my biggest peeves. Cardstock where somebody's like, oh no, I want it more substantial than that. Give me US Games cardstock any old day, the original Los Scarabeo and Llewellyn decks. Yes, give me those any day. That's kind of another reason why I do like mass market decks is I don't know this for sure, but a lot of indie decks I've looked at, people are like, value, so we want to give you this good thick cardstock. I don't like it when cards stick together. I don't like it when I can't handle them and manipulate them easily. Let's put it like that as a blanket. I don't like it when authors dip into a culture, that's been historically appropriated, and they're not part of that culture. So yeah, I don't like appropriation. And what else don't I like? I mean, I guess that's the majors there. What do you not care about in a deck? Oh. Ultimately, I don't really care about all of those things I dislike if I can get a good reading out of the deck. The bottom line for me, I've seen a lot of reviews that really obsess about cardstock quality. When I'm reviewing a deck, I kind of lose that as an afterthought until it comes to shuffling it. But people that, really go on about the kind of box and the cardstock and all that stuff, that to me is secondary to whether a deck reads well. I can tell immediately whether an author's got a gift or it's just a money grab, you know. So that's another thing I don't like in decks, when it's clearly a money grab. And mass market decks are notorious for this. I don't think I don't think indie producers would do this, because there's that motivation to create a deck. When the mass market, Los Scarabeo is notorious for this. So many decks that seem to be just, hey, this is a hot topic right now, let's make a deck about this. Hey, let's grab an illustrator, will you draw these images for me, and slap some standard meanings on it, and that's that. I really do dislike that. But again, ultimately, if I can get a reading out of the deck, I love it. I absolutely love it. I think that is all I have to say, and 15 minutes is long enough. I hope you got something out of this. Let me know your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe if you are so moved, and I will see you next time. Till then, this is Luna. Blessed be.